Hey, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of Dentistry Unmasked this week. I'm Pam Maragliano, and with me, as always,
Hey Pam, David Rice, friends, good to see you.
oh my gosh, good to see both of you.
Yes, we have a very special guest this week, and by very special, we could take that many ways. No, I'm really proud. I'm honored. I'm so happy that my better nine tenths, Anastasia Turchetta, is here. She's like Cher, though, right, Pam? She just goes by like
I just need
Anastasia.
to drop that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like Madonna. Yeah, totally.
Prince.
Anastasia,
I mean, we're
Prince.
we're going to come up with many of these throughout the episode today, but Anastasia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me.
It's like a miracle having you here because, I mean, for starters, every time I see you, I just like want to take all of your time because I love you so much. But what we're talking about today is you being like, no, you need to chill yourself because sometimes we need boundaries, right? And I feel like as dental professionals, we tend to overextend ourselves or maybe overschedule ourselves. I know us as speakers and lecturers, like we don't like to say no to things. And oftentimes things sound and feel like a good idea like a year from now or 6 months from now, that when the date approaches, you're like, why did I schedule 3 trips in one? Like, what am I doing? But you've kind of got this dialed in and have a lot of insights and advice to share for us for our overall well-being. And I can't wait to hear it.
Thank you. You know what? I really feel that it is my journey was based on life experience. We're not taught about boundaries. We're really taught, it doesn't mean that you're not kind. And I think that's where the mindset came from. I mean, what we're taught is don't get in a car with strangers or, you know, don't get in a car with a guy that says, hey, you want some candy? And look where we are now. We're taking Ubers and all of these other things. But in dentistry, you really hit the nail on the head with that. And the fact of not only as you both being business owners, we're struggling with our time, we're struggling with schedules, we're struggling with the physical labor and the emotional labor between ourselves and our teams. And there's always a push pull. And when you say no, oftentimes people will try and press through that. They'll try and push past your no. But what we don't own is the fact that when we do that and we don't justify, you don't have to justify your no, but when we help people push through it, they're not seeing boundaries that we're placing. What they're hearing, and it's about what they're hearing negotiation. So if you leave room in any of that, whether it's patient care, whether it's leadership, whether it's with your team, the team culture, that just opens it up for more stress, burnout, and lack of productivity.
Ooh, okay. So I'm literally going to do my best to take my husband hat off for this episode and wear my dentist practice owner hat for this question in particular, which is you said something really interesting. It becomes a negotiation. So how do you balance the concept of like the truth is somewhere in the middle versus not negotiating on things that really shouldn't be negotiable?
First of all, it's a great question. Negotiation it can be flexible, but I feel as owners, team players, even for patient care, you have to know what you want. You have to know who are you as a dental professional? Number one, what is your role? What's your identity? Because again, sometimes just like our parents may not have taught us about boundaries, what I find fascinating is what we've learned in school really kind of lacks on I would say the bedside manner, let alone the business manner of how we practice. So what is your role? Identify that. And what do you want from that? And then from there, look at expectations. So me, for example, what pushed me from being in dental hygiene into in boundaries is I've learned as a visual learner to identify with road trip metaphors. And I find that helps people out so much. So it's either a red light or a fuel gauge if you can. So if you look at it for negotiations and what do you want? How do you set a boundary or communicate it? You have to recognize where you are. So the green light would be like, I'm good. I'm good to go. The yellow is like more of the safe zone. That's where caution presents itself and you need to pause. So if you can visualize that and feel that, you feel it in your gut, you could just feel overwhelmed or frustrated. And then the red light, that's a hard stop. And we don't pay attention to that often.
It's so interesting because I feel like if I get asked to do something, and not even necessarily a professional thing, it could be whatever. I feel like if my answer is no, I almost have to come up with an excuse that's acceptable and, or one that like I can't get out of. So there's really no negotiation there. But one of my really good friends during residency, I remember we asked her to go somewhere and she was like, no. And I was like, "No." No. She was like, no. And I was like, why not? She was like, I don't want to. And I was like, weird. Wow. That's awesome. Like you just don't want to go, so you're not going to go? She's like, yes. And it just seemed so foreign to me because I feel like maybe it's how I was brought up or maybe whatever. I always feel like I have to make an excuse for that boundary. And I feel like,
Yeah.
why do we do that?
I feel most women do that. It's very rare you'll hear a man say no and then come up with whatever that is around them. It's almost like you have to put a bow on top of your no. And we do not need to do that. And we're also taught to people please and be kind, and we don't want to hurt people's feelings. But in reality, no is being kind. That way you have the energy to continue what you're doing because you want to be your best. So when we do think of something like a fuel gauge, where are you at? If you're running on empty, that's not going to get you hustling to a patient any faster. It's not going to help you with how you prepare, whether it's for implant placement or the hygienist is, going like this, waiting for you to go and check their patient. It's really important to pay attention to that. And I feel that is more of a conditioning that, and guilt all wrapped up into a bow around the no. So do not justify your no.
That's a sound take. I'll tell you as a guy, um, I may present myself outwardly as if I'm not concerned about giving an explanation, but internally, I'm definitely still feeling that. I maybe hide it for some odd reason. But that's a really good point. I love what you said about no is me focusing more energy on the people and the priorities that actually really do matter as opposed to something negative on the other side. And I think if we can focus on that, on the things that actually really matter, the people that really matter, that's a really great take on setting a boundary.
Thank you. Yeah, it's taken a long time for me to understand and accept because Pam, you said that, you weren't sure how that landed with you. And what we feel sometimes we carry somebody else is like, what? Why would they say no? How do we do this? Or if a patient runs late, or you have a team member that's, I don't know, late for a morning huddle and everybody is there, like, why do we feel bad? And boundaries are boundaries. They're there for a reason. They're not suggestions because suggestions don't stop burnout. Like if we think about that, it's a boundary is where they guide us. It's a GPS that your schedule every single day, your time when you're on the road, we're speaking, you're doing this, you guys are doing this all day. I mean, you've scheduled your time and that is like your GPS driving you through the day. Did you schedule time for a break? I mean, like, is there time for you to just, okay, that person may have been either, we were trying to extract information from them, pun intended, and we were trying to do this and do that. And it's very interesting how if we don't reset in between these Zoom calls, podcasts, that also throws you off with your energy for that next guest or patient if you're practicing clinically.
Pam, I feel like we just got in a little bit of trouble for how we lay out our day.
Oh, I know. I was like, did I give you access to my calendar accidentally? Would you like
Who do you
access to
give
my
access
calendar?
to, right?
Exactly. I feel like I need you to schedule me some breaks because
Yes. I mean, who do you allow? It's like an emotional fast pass around you. So who gets that? Everybody? Or are you selective?
silence.
Look at you
I
both. I mean,
know.
this is hysterical.
I would drop the microphone, but I kind of need it. So, Anastasia, you talk about boundaries in terms of time, energy, and emotion. Like in today's dental practice, let's say let's start. Like I'm the dentist, whether I own the practice or I'm an associate, like how does that apply to me?
It applies to you because your time reflects what you value. So that means, what are you spending your time on? So is it, with your patients? What does that look like when you're scheduling? What does that look like for your team? And within that, what are hard no's? Because yes, you have to be flexible during the day. You never know what's going to happen. We have emergencies and you have patients that come in late, but is there a sound structure? And you don't want to sound unempathetic, but what we almost need is a detached, empathetic script, if you will. It doesn't mean you don't hear the patient. It doesn't mean you don't value the patient or appreciate them. But what it does mean is this is how myself, the dentist, and my team can deliver quality care. And that means we have a scheduled amount of time for that. Here's what we can do for you today. Does
So
that
if
make
I,
sense?
it does. So I want to, so would you say a boundary would be having a set system for, say, the hygiene schedule? If somebody shows up 15 minutes late, if they, if maybe 15 minutes is your window where you're like 15 minutes or less late, we can still see you. But if you're 16 minutes late, we are either going to do, I don't know, checkup x-rays and exam, or we need to reappoint you. I mean, is that something that we would consider as a boundary in our practice?
I would say yes to that because there is your dental hygiene team, the role and the scope of practice legally is massive. And most often we diminish it to what we can provide, within the amount of time that we have. So wouldn't that be awesome to, if they're 15 minutes late till they get in there and you take the health history and you take a blood pressure, right now you're into 30 minutes. What can you do in 30 minutes? But a lot of people don't think that way. But the point is for educating them, keep delivering quality care. And the boundary would be, this is our mission statement. This is how we practice, and this is how we stay our best. So it's a culture, and what that boundaries actually support that. So you want to be consistent with that. That's the only thing, because I know sometimes it's so easy just to say, oh yeah, but we can squeeze it in and we can do this. But consistency breeds the culture, and you need boundaries to do that.
I like that on the patient side. And I feel like I can't imagine somebody listening to this thinking anything other than, boy, I really would like to establish some boundaries in my life. But if I've never done this before as a leader in my practice, and the goal is I would love to bring some boundaries to the team, like set the guide rails and all the things. And I don't know how to do it. So vulnerable dentist David and me would be like, I would probably shy away from it, even though I want to do it because I just don't know how. Like, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to bring boundaries into the practice and just doesn't know where to begin?
That's a great question. And I would encourage them to identify what they really want and recognize where they may be lacking with their time, emotions, and energy. And I would start there. And it's a plethora of things, right? So time just isn't your schedule. It's also the time that you spend in documenting, your charting after a patient. Maybe it's your CE. Maybe it's, maybe you have some team drama. I don't know, but whatever that is, that's going to take time. And you have to understand, like when you're going into that, just write it down as to what's more valuable for you. Because at the end of the day, boundaries protect or safeguard our patients' care, our team culture, and our business performance. So within that, that's a moving part. It's a breathing entity. So I would say to look inside as where are you, as far as your time, emotions, and energy. What do you want? And how are you going to get that? Patient care wise, but also protecting you, meaning your emotional wellness and your energy management.
This is interesting because when I think of boundaries, like I guess I imagine sort of like a fence and like keeping things out, but you're also keeping things in, like
Yes.
accountability. Like you mentioned the morning huddle, like if somebody's always late and you're like, but we start at our huddle starts at 7:45, you showing up at 7, walking in at 7:53, it's not going to fly. So I feel like it's almost like creating like a standard or guideposts with your time, but also once you've defined that for the people around you, I think it's a really effective communication tool as well.
It definitely is, and it's about respect. So there were times, and David, you have helped me with this. So as an ADDer, if you will, I chase a lot of squirrels and I would be late to a lot of things. And that includes even when I used to practice hygiene. My morning huddle, I'm not proud of it. And the dentist that I worked for sat me down. He's like, Anastasia, everybody else is here. I need you to be here. It's really important. This is part of your role. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it is part of my role, but I wasn't really thinking that. And I didn't intentionally think that that was, well, look at that hygienist coming in kind of a, attitude. It was just, I'm driving an hour and a half. So I just kind of felt like, don't I get some leeway? And no, you don't. That's my job. That's my role. I need to show up. So it's exactly what you were saying. Yes, it is about communication and it's also about respecting because for me to show up, I'm respecting your time and it shows that I value you. And then my expectations are exactly the same. I want you to respect me. I want you to know what to expect from me. So if I were to give myself a Google review, what would that be on my time? Do I show up on time? Am I giving my time? So communication is definitely a really big part of that. Be clear and assertive, never aggressive, but make sure you're in the space for that. So if you don't have the capacity to come off that way, take a step back.
Well, I have a question. So there could be people listening to this, and I mean, I love what you're saying, and I'm sure I should create boundaries, whether I will or not, that is, to be seen. But how do you identify that perhaps you could use some boundaries? Like what are some characteristics of, say, a dental professional or a person as a partner or a friend where you're like, you know what, you guys are talking to me and I didn't even realize it.
It's so true. And I have to look at my little notes thing because I have an acronym called triggers. And I feel everybody, it's a hot word, but do we really sit and appreciate identifying what that means? Because exactly what you said, once you feel this and you apply this into your life, then you'll know, wow, I was missing this, and you're actually on the road to emotional freedom. So triggers for the acronym is the first part is to take notice. Take notice what's around you, what is draining you. Is it an energy vampire? So those are the people that are always complaining, they're always negative. They come in, they're like, oh, I just need to vent. And that vent, instead of it being like 10 seconds, is like 3 hours, right? We all know that person. And, that can go from either team, patient, family, whatever. I mean, we all know that. So, what is draining your energy and your emotions? So, you want to make sure that you take notice. The next one is to recognize. So, label it. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Do you feel like you're people pleasing? Now, remember, a lot of us are overachievers when this patient comes in that's late. Oh, we could do this, we could do this. But overachievers are basically masked people pleasers. So try to wrap your head around that, but recognize and label, am I frustrated? Am I anxious? Am I irritated? Am I overwhelmed? Am I sad? What is going on? So that's the R. I is to identify, what do you need right now in the moment? Do you need more time? Do you need more space? Do you need help? So we don't pause for that. G is to ground yourself, and that is to breathe. I think a lot of times we're just like, and then we just go for it. And instead, just ground yourself, literally, just pause. Take that moment to pause. The other G is to gauge, and that would be to intentionally respond instead of impulsively respond. The E is to express your boundary. This is what I need. I value your opinion. We appreciate you. I understand. Something like that, because that is showing that you hear where the other person is at, but you're also stating what you need and what's going to happen next. That helps them respect you and understand what to expect from you. And then R is to respect. So enforce it. Boundaries that aren't enforced are just suggestions. And like I said, suggestions don't stop burnout.
I'm gonna give you some credit here. So make note of this moment.
I'm
You,
ready.
yeah, no, you you have this like stable of like some pretty high-powered humans who kind of routinely reach out to you, and I hear you walk them through this process. So as you do that with people that you know well, is this like a team meeting? Do we sit down with our team and we say, all right, you know what's going to help us? It's going to help us as a team if we set some boundaries with each other, with our patients. You can use this at home. Like, do you walk people through this acronym? How do you do that? Because I sort of get like earshot of the conversation, and I know you're doing this because I hear your words in it. But like, what's the process for it so we can integrate it into our practice?
That's a great question. So the process is to, I would say, use the triggers acronym. So take that into your practice. And then I would say, ask the individual if they had a stoplight, where would they be at? And where are you at? So are you green, yellow, or red? So, yellow, of course, that's the safe zone, that's the safe space. And it's also a word of caution. So I feel that visually, it really helps people understand where are they? Because we can acronym until the sun goes down. It's just we still can't identify where are we at in that. Or you could use the fuel gauge. And that's what I use too on, asking certain friends, where are you at? Is your tank empty? Are you at like half a tank of gas? Or do you need to recharge? Where do you find yourself? Because where you find yourself is where you're going to find more people willing and able to give, okay, I like this boundary. Let's make this happen. If they're at a red for something that they're going through, or maybe that has not been consistent, it's really going to be a hard sell to the team to understand this is what you want to do.
This is interesting, but I also think people sit, they're in different places,
Mhm.
and I feel like how do you how do you tell somebody that you need to create a boundary that they need to respect without offending them? I know you say you have to be assertive, not aggressive, but I feel like sometimes people, especially if they were overstepping boundaries or don't have any sort of filter for that, how do you do that effectively but in a friendly way, especially when you're trying to manage a dental team?
Right. Because you're with that team like all day, every day. They're like family, really, because you are side by side with them. I would say there are definitely words to help stop and pause. And that would say, I really care about you. I really care that you're on my team. Right now, for me, I just need a 15-minute break. Or can we carry that? I really don't have the bandwidth for this at this time. Can we please carry this conversation at blank, blank time? And I would make sure that there's a time that they don't feel that they're not unheard or they're not seen or they're not valued. So use those words of, you know what, I really value you and your opinion, but I just need to take a step back and I need to be, whether that's like you just got out of a patient that was a hard case or you're running behind. Sometimes people we get into our own heads and we don't appreciate where you're at either as the team leader. So using words like that kind of press pause with people, but it's not so, I would say in your face, so to speak, for them of having them feel like, wow, they're not even willing to talk to me.
Can I give Pam, can I give you an Anastasia-ism?
Yes.
This is how Anastasia voodoo magics me. And I think to your question, Anastasia, you probably do this because it's so routine for you at this stage of the game. But when you want to have a conversation with me, because I love how you said it, Pam, like we're, maybe you're at the intersection and I'm at some stop sign like 4 blocks away. We're at different points, but you ask me, are you in a good place to talk?
Is this a good time for you?
Is this a good time for you? And I know from the first time you did that, I was like, oh, okay, yes. But now I know like what that means is like we're gonna have a conversation about something that is important to you that we need to talk about. And you're genuinely asking me, like, is this a good time? Because if it isn't, because there have been times I've said like not really, and you're like, okay, well, let's find a good time. So that I thought was a really easy way to come to a team member or someone in our personal life to initiate the conversation that didn't really feel confrontational to me.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for that. I also feel that when you say that, and someone responds to say either yes or no, put a limit on it so you're not compelled or you feel that this has to go on. Because honestly, like with people receiving feedback, some are more sensitive than others. I am a sensitive little soul over here, but it's good to recognize that. And it was only through the trigger system to understand that it's to make me grow professionally and personally. It was not, and which is, that's non-negotiable to me. I want to grow. So for me, if we can have that, and if I were to ask you, Pam, and if I were to say, hey, is this a good time for you? And maybe your response could be, I have 15 minutes to talk about this topic. Are you comfortable with that? And sometimes it just lands it back on them because, sometimes that conversation can just go on and on and on. And really, it doesn't take that long to state a boundary. Just like your friend when you were sharing about going, I don't want to do that. No, or just no. So for you, I feel, to lay a boundary out in your practice, whether it's team culture, whether it's business performance or quality patient care, it doesn't take long, but set the time limit on that too.
To be honest with you, I feel like when it comes to boundaries, I need to create boundaries for myself as opposed to from others around me. You know what I mean? I feel like it's not like at the office, I don't feel like I get overwhelmed by somebody who wants to come and speak with me. But I feel like for me, I tend to say yes to like my first answer is yes, and I'll figure it out later versus hold on, let me think about this and figure out if this actually works in life. And a boundary I created this summer was to take the summer off. And so I sort of, you know, didn't book lectures and webinars and all the things for the summer. And I was like, this is actually kind of, this was my first summer off from non-fun traveling. Um, I mean, I can't even tell you the last time. And so I don't know. I feel like everybody out there, if you're kind of overwhelmed with some of the things you do and, maybe just do an experiment and take some time off or take a break from what it is you're doing. I mean, I feel like, gosh, we've all learned from COVID, work will always be there. You know what I mean? Like you could literally take 3 months off and still come back and be able to pick up and keep going. So if you need 5 minutes, you need a week, you need a summer, try it. And all of a sudden, I think that your well-being will be greatly improved.
I totally agree. It's what serves you to be your best you. So, what is that? Is that, like you said, you took the time off? Is it a digital detox? What is serving you to help you be your best you for your emotional well-being and your energy management?
Yeah, I will tell you, I would agree with you, Pam. I think that's probably the toughest boundary for me is to do that. And in the times that I have done it, everybody's really responded favorably. So I think to myself, like, why the heck have I not done this more? So Anastasia, is it almost like individually we have to give ourselves permission for that?
You do. And I find it fascinating because in today's world, especially with dentists and leaders like we're talking about dental, practices, you're getting texts on holidays or, whatever that is. And even with you, you'll get texts from, I understand there's different time zones, but what we don't realize is why do we have to have our phones right beside us all the time, right? Because if you have someone, no matter where you are, the other person is going to feel less than. And is that respectful of their time? So it is giving yourself permission, but in the same token, giving yourself permission to be present, which is kind of a strange concept, even though it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I feel like we need to
Why are
work
you
on.
laughing at that?
No, I feel like
It's so
we
true.
need I mean, it's interesting because I think that at this point with social media and our phones and all of these things that I think we inherently try to multitask
Mhm.
in every aspect of our life. And I think being more present in the moment for especially face-to-face interactions. I mean, how many times are you in a restaurant and you look over and there's people literally having dinner together, but they're on their respective phones? You know,
Yes,
um, you know, you wouldn't even remember what you had for dinner last night. You know what I mean? Like it's like, why'd you even go out? And so
exactly.
I think, So, I mean, David, I'm a Swiftie. And so Taylor just talked about energy being a luxury item and something that, you don't just give out to everybody and you don't just get from anybody. And I
Right.
feel like if you're going to take that time to take a shower, get dressed up, put makeup on, find a cute outfit to go out to dinner, be present for dinner, be there and, enjoy the person that did the same to spend that time with you. And
It's so true. It's so true. And like, I think for us to just share about expectations or something like that, because even if you went out and you weren't present, we overthink things. And what didn't you like? Like, pay attention to your body's signal. How did you feel and what would you do differently? Because that's where it will lead you to what boundary you need to set. So, was it your energy or was it your emotions? And once you absorb that, then move forward to going, okay, I need to set a boundary with this. So, for example, you had mentioned, doing your hair. And if I have to shave my legs, that's a thing, right? Like if I'm doing the Rembrandt here and it's shaving my legs, and I was meeting some girlfriends out and everybody was on their phone. And, you sit there, you absorb it. And I came home and I thought about it and I thought about it. And then they texted like, hey, let's do that again. That was so fun, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what, y'all, I would love to do that. I just have one request. Is it possible for us to place our phones down just during dinner? I recognize like some people's parents were aging, you never know with that type of a thing. I said, but what I'd love to, have is your presence because the only connection that I walked away with was the Wi-Fi connection. And that's not what we're
ooh,
here for.
that's not what we're here for. And I think it makes you a better friend, a better communicator, better partner, better coworker, better, employer, all of those things. I mean, we're humans and we need human connection and we need to be taking care of ourselves as well. And I feel like we've barely even touched the tip of the iceberg on this topic because I think, I feel like at the end of this podcast, if you're like, you know what? I need a boundary. I feel like we maybe did something, but I think there's more to be gained from this topic. And I think that it's, something that we should be talking about more and talking about more frequently.
I agree with that 1,000%. It's amazing how once you embrace what your body and your energy are trying to tell you, but we don't make the time to listen. We just kind of stuff it down, stuff it down. And it doesn't mean, I feel like a lot of people feel it's just a hard stop. And if you are physically going to be in danger or if you're, whatever that is, obviously there are hard stops, but boundaries are flexible. And even as we, no matter what that is, you have to start somewhere. Otherwise, other people will benefit from you not having boundaries. You think other people don't have boundaries? Of course they do. But because you don't, they can benefit from that. And you are the one who suffers the stress, the anxiety, the burnout, all of the negativity that takes away from the beautiful you being that you are.
I think, self-care has been talked about like ad nauseum and it's very important, but at its heart, maybe this is where self-care begins, is being able to define what's important to you, to protect the time, the energy, the emotions, I love the trigger. Um, I think boundaries might be the place it all has to begin to make that whole self-care thing happen. Pam, I have no idea where time goes, speaking of time, but holy schmolies.
I know, I know. And we have a time boundary that we
Mm.
have a hard time staying within because
Way to go.
it's an interesting topic. And I feel like and I've already said it, like I can't get enough time with you anyway, Anastasia. But
I
I
feel the
think
same.
I know we need to hang out more. But anyway, where can people, I mean, find you, follow you? I mean, that you have so much advice to share, not only about this topic, but also I know you're doing a lot in the pet space and you're doing so many things. So, I mean, I feel like everybody, you just need to be seeing all of the things that she's doing.
Thank you. You can find me at anastasiaturchetta.com, and I am currently working on the book that you see behind me, which is The Highway to Health, How to Set Better Boundaries, and it's based on road trip metaphors.
How about social media, darling? Where do we find you?
Totally. Anastasia RDH, and Instagram, I think, is Anastasia Torchetta.
All
Isn't that
right.
terrible? I was not prepared for that question.
Oh my goodness gracious. That's okay. We'll throw things in show notes. Turns like Pam and I have done this once or twice before. So we'll
Thank
make it happen.
goodness.
Well, thanks for being here. The cool thing for me is I get to unplug from this and like literally just go find you. So I get to have more Anastasia. I'm so grateful. Thanks all of you for watching and
Thank
listening in.
you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us, Anastasia. As always, a pleasure. And we will see all of you next week.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to Dentistry Unmasked podcast, produced by Endeavor Business Media, a division of Endeavor B2B. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at Ignite DDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive Dental Economics magazine. You can choose to receive DE in print or have it delivered directly to your email.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email at dentistryunmaskedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.